Now let's look at a special category of bonds which have the characteristics of both bonds as well as equity. Bonds as well as shares. The word itself is telling us convertible. So they are initially issued as bonds, initially a part of the loan capital itself, but there is an option that is provided to the bond investor. There is an option that is provided to the bond investor that if he wants, he can convert it to the shares of the company. So he can convert it to equity capital. Now, what is the conversion ratio? How many bonds would be converted into how many shares? At what date they would be converted? At what price they would be converted? All these things are set initially itself. Initially, when this convertible bond is issued by the company to the investor, all these details are very much present as a part of the bond document. And so we see that for some period of time, that particular bond behaves more closer like a bond, wherein the interest is received on a periodic basis, and in case it is not converted into a share, even the principal is received on the maturity. Now it's not mandatory to convert also, because it's an option that is given to the investor to convert. So the bond can it can continue till the maturity period also. But once it is converted, the bond's interest and principal payments will be stopped, and probably the dividends and the capital appreciation for the share is going to come out. So that is where we see that this typically behaves either as this or as this, and in some cases it can have more of both the properties lying around. Now, if the conversion is very highly possible, then probably the share behaves, that this instrument behaves more like a share. But if the conversion is more unlikely to happen, then the behavior is more like a bond. So depending on how the conversion is typically viewed at, the behavior of the instrument more or less is likely. And at any point in time, see, the option of conversion typically lies with the investor, not with the company. So it's a kind of bonus, it's a kind of positive value that the investor is getting to exercise that particular option. And when more and more uncertainty exists, yes, the bond can, the value can, the share price can move drastically, but it may go much lower, it may go much higher. If it is going much lower, the investor will not exercise the option, he will continue it as a bond. He will get all the benefits of the bond. If the price of the stock has gone very high, probably he will exercise the bond. He will because he can buy the share at a much lower price, because that price has been decided at the outset itself. So he will buy the price, he will buy the share at a much lower price, whereas the market price is much higher. If possible, he will sell it off immediately into the market and make an immediate gain. So if the uncertainty is much higher, whether the share price is going to go up or go down, but it is going to move drastically in future, probably having an instrument like convertible bond is much beneficial, because depending on how it has moved, whether it has moved in the upward or in the downward direction, the appropriate strategy can be taken. So that's the reason the demand for these kind of options is going to be much higher if the uncertainty relating to the conversion is much higher. And this uncertainty is measured in the form of option price or option premium or conversion premium. And typically, this conversion premium is paid by the investor to the issuer for getting that option or for getting that option to choose whether he would like to convert or not, which will result in the price the investor pays for it is higher. For a regular, if it is a non-convertible bond, if he is paying some X, for a convertible bond he has to pay some X plus delta X. This delta X is more contributing towards the option that he is taking additionally, so that he can choose really whether he wants to convert that bond into a share or not, and at a future point in time. So this premium adds up to the initial price, and so price paid by an ordinary share for buying a convertible minus the market price of the ordinary share. So price which is typically paid for an ordinary share by a convertible bond minus the price that is going to be paid for the ordinary share. That is what is going out to be the worth of this conversion premium. So whatever is the price of this convertible, this is going to be the price of this convertible divided by the number of shares that I can convert into. That is what will give me the price of the conversion per share, because one bond can be converted into 20 shares or 10 bonds can be converted into one share, depending on the characteristics that are associated with the bond and the share that it is going to be converted into. The pricing, the effective price per share can very well be converted. Now, from the investor's standpoint, what are the various possibilities now that he has a convertible bond in his hands, and now that he has a chance to convert also, the date has approached. There are a range of dates that are present. Between this date to this date, the conversion can happen at any point. Now, if that's the scenario, what are the various options that he is left with? Either he can convert now immediately, because there is a possibility of conversion. But for that, what he has to really see, once he is converting, he is losing out the interest on the bond. He may not get the principal at all. Rather, he will get the dividends, which in general, the running yield could be much, much lesser, and there is going to be a capital gain, right? But the price at which he is converting, whether he is converting here or here, it's going to be the same. The price at which he is purchasing that share, he might purchase it here or he might purchase it here. At any point, the price is going to be the same, which means the major decision point here is if the dividend after tax, right? If the dividend that the investor is receiving, the post-tax value of the dividend the investor is receiving, it should be greater than the coupon that he is receiving on the bond. If the dividend that he is receiving on the stock is greater than the coupon that he is receiving on the bond, now if I am converting, I have no issues. But in some cases, but majority of the time what we see is this interest should be much higher compared to the dividend. So when I'm trying to convert it later, my major decision point is, yes, right now the interest that is coming is much greater than the dividend. So because the interest income is higher and higher, there is no hurry for me to convert. Let me receive the interest, which is high on an annual basis. So let me receive the interest until the company starts giving the dividend much higher compared to the interest. And as long as this is the case, I might still continue going ahead with the bond itself without conversion. And in some cases, there might be a possibility that when once I reach here, which is the last possible conversion date. Now, this is where I'll see, would it be worth to convert, or should I forever continue it as a bond? Now, that is where I will not look at the interest, right? So, if I am looking at the last possible date, now after that, there is no chance of conversion. The only difference from that point is the capital gain that I am going to get versus the redemption amount, which is the principal. So there is no more question of interest and dividend because that is the last possible conversion date, right? Now, at that point, if I'm still converting, which means at that point, I'm seeing that the share price, which is the capital gain that I'm going to get, is much higher than the redemption price. So, on the last date, if I want to convert, this is the check that I'm making. But on the last date, if I'm seeing it the other way, on the last day, if I am seeing that the redemption price or the bonds maturity value is much lesser or is much higher compared to the share price, I don't even mind continuing it as a bond until the redemption date. But if I am seeing now that there is a requirement for money and the redemption price of the bond is greater than the stock price, and there is a need for money at this moment, I can very well sell off the bond also. I will not even hold on. I will sell the bond in the secondary market, take the proceeds, use the money, and if possible, purchase the shares of the company as such. So different kinds of possibilities do exist once there is a convertible bond and the investor is having a conversion option at this point whether to convert or whether to go ahead. So with the different kinds of options he has to really evaluate what is associated with the running yield, what is associated with the coupon yield as well as the dividend yield, what is associated with the capital gain. All these things can be visualized before taking up what would be an appropriate conversion option for him, right?